Welcome back, everyone. I am really excited to have this conversation with Nicole McCance. We are going to geek out on some systems today. And for those of you who want to have above average success and a lot of free time and a beautiful life, this is the podcast for you. So welcome, Nicole.
Yes. So happy to be here.
Why don't we start and you can share a little bit about who you are, what you did, and what you do now.
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
I am a clinical psychologist and did that for about 15 years and honestly felt that's why I was on this planet, to truly help people. And then after 15 years, I just got sick of hitting the ceiling. I was trading my time for money. And in 2016, I became pregnant with twins. And all of a sudden, my life is about to double, but I can't work more. I just can't see any more clients. The only thing was, I didn't know what to do. There was no coach out there. So guess what I did? I did nothing because I didn't even know the first step. And I find that when we don't know the first step, we're just overwhelmed and do nothing.
Yeah.
But I when my kids were 2, I was just so sick of getting home at 7 p.m. and they went to bed at 7:30 and being like not available, that I took the plunge and created a group practice. But I was on a mission to do 2 things. One, I wanted it to be automated. So I wasn't buying myself a job. Like I truly wanted it to run without me. And I also wanted it to be very big. I had huge revenue goals and I was able to do both.
Yeah. And so at the point of us meeting, was it before COVID?
It was during. It was mid, like right smack dab in the middle.
Yeah. Like but closer
2020.
to the beginning of COVID.
It was, yes.
Yeah. And you started working with us. And I remember you telling me your big aspirations and, you had this clinical practice and you had all of these clinicians and you just wanted to be in your hot tub by 4 p.m. every day. Like that was goal number 1. And I remember Laura and I taking a look at all of the things that you were doing. And we were like, okay, we got to trim this down. Like you should not be doing all of these things. And I want to also say that if you have a clinical practice or you are, a clinician, licensed, regulated, a coach, and you are, it's you, yourself, and you, it's just you. These things are very normal. Like these things, doing all the admin, doing all the billing, doing everything. It's very normal and unnecessary.
Yes. And if I could jump in, yeah. I think the problem is we don't learn anything about business in graduate school. So we're just like, okay, I guess I'll do all the things because no one tells us different.
Yes. And that was my experience too. I remember being a nutritionist and coming out and I had, a 12-hour business course and it was, how to put together a resume and how to do, percentage splits when you're working in a clinic and business cards and brochures and all of that. And I remember the first time somebody asked me what a P&L was. And I was like, what's a P&L? I thought it was one word. Like I didn't know what it was. It's a profit and loss statement, P&L, but I thought it was P&L. Like I didn't know what it was.
That's awesome.
And I was mortified. And they're looking at me like, but don't you have your own practice? And I was like, yeah. And so, we all have these things where we show up and we do what we need to do because we don't know better.
Right.
And then something happens and we're like, oh shit. And then you have this awareness of what better is. And then you just can't get enough. Do you want to maybe talk about what that was like for you when you sort of realized like, okay, there's a world beyond what I know and I need to go and find it, and what you sort of did first?
Vividly. So it was finding you. I was following a bunch of different people and I really resonated with you. And honestly, at first, I just wanted to hang out with powerful women who had reached past the $1 million mark. It was lonely. It was just me, you know what I mean? And that's really how I found you first. And then I didn't have, it was just such a pleasant surprise, like all of the tangible knowledge and systems that I learned that truly I began to implement and gave me this freedom that, like, honestly, my whole life changed. And when we were working together, that's when I began to say, okay, wait, I can live a life where I get 1 hour to myself before my kids get home and I can be a better mom because of it, because my cup is full. So after implementing the systems came the hot tub.
Yeah. Let's talk about about what some of the systems are, because there's probably people listening who are maybe, doing 20K a month or even 10, or they're just getting started and they're like, you know what? I don't want to mess around. Like, I'm not, they're like you and I, they're like, we're not here to mess around. Like, give us the goods. And so what were some of the first things that you did to sort of create this foundation so that you could have more of your time back?
First, I took everything out of my head that is gold. Don't keep it there because people rely on you. And I put it in a Google Drive. And what I mean is everything related to operations, as simple as, so psychology, of course, bill payment, cancellation policy, things like dress code. But you helped me take it to the next level where I was like, wait a minute, I could even systemize the onboarding process, the training process. And guess what? Once I did that, I could then give it to somebody else to do. That's where the freedom came from. What to do when a therapist leaves. Because the thing is, if you know it's going to happen more than once, create a system and then just give it to somebody else, and it's rinse and repeat. Yeah. And then literally I systemized everything. Like, you name it, it was systemized. Even my marketing plans, it's like, okay, if we know what works with Google Ads, then do it well, and then just turn up the tap and do it again and again.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things, when people come into my world, I am not someone who likes to shouldn't say that. I love doing new things. I love having ideas, and that is the demise, right? New things, new ideas is the demise, because the goal is freedom. Yeah. And you can only have freedom when you figure out what works and just do that. And then you optimize to make that better. And I think that's where a lot of people sort of screw themselves is they love ideas. They love trying new things. They want to throw out this offer, and they want to try this, and then they're going to hire this person, and they're going to bounce from thing to thing to thing. And if I look at the people that, the clients like you that I work with, all of our businesses are very simple on paper. Like, if we were to write out what we do on paper, I mean, sure, there's a lot of moving parts, of course, but if we were to really write it out on paper, I think people would be shocked. Yeah. Because we don't do a lot of different things. We do few things, and we do them repeatedly.
I love that. Yes. And I think that my humanity can get in the way because I'm the personality. It's fun to come up with all the ideas. And just the other day, you're like, Nicole, stop. No, just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So that's the only thing, that the ideas can be fun, but you are right that they can always also slow growth.
Yeah, they can slow growth. So you systematized things. And I think that's really important. And even if you're just starting out and there's something that you do a lot, whatever that is, even checking your email and deleting email, write down what emails you're deleting. Because the minute that you hire a virtual assistant, guess what? They are now responsible for going in and deleting those emails. And I think, as we're talking, I think also it's a blessing and a curse to be highly educated, because you think that you're the only one that can do the things. Right. Do you want to talk about how you've duplicated, triplicated yourself so that other people can do the things that you were doing that you don't actually need to be doing?
Yeah. I think it really boils down to, I love working with people who are smarter than me, like finding the good people, and their strength is certain things. And so when I gave them the Google Drive, guess what I said? This is now your manual that you are going to be responsible for keeping live, because you'll be running all these things. But to me, it was finding the right people. And I found psychology students who wanted to be me one day. And so that was the perfect person. And they were super bright, going to grad school. And I would have them for maybe 3 years and then just train them, and they ran with everything. However, I do agree with you. I think a lot of overeducated people struggle with that. And with me too, I was a bit of a perfectionist. So I think that's a whole mind shift to just truly let go and trust. But of course, train them well and verify. But over time, it gets easier, right? Because the only way to systemize is to have a team and let them do the things.
Yeah. And actually for me, I found that when I had a team, I was much more accountable to getting things done, because versus being this perfectionist where I was like, oh, it's not done yet. It's not done yet, because they were counting on me and they couldn't do their job until my work was done. So I actually found that hiring people helped me to get more done faster than when I was on my own. Did you find that too?
I don't procrastinate, but I could see if you do procrastinate for sure, because now these people are holding you accountable because you just told them to do this thing and you have to give them that to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest struggles that you experienced when you started to sort of build this team so that you could have space?
Again, and you probably remember this. So first it was the systems. Rely on systems, not people, and the systems will set you free, not the people. It was, for me, we grew to 55 therapists in 3 years, and it was just a whole lot of people, So for me, it was like growing into a leader, because in 3 years, I feel like the business grew faster than I did. And you helped me with this piece, just learning to be a leader. I didn't have a clue. Graduate school taught me zero. I feel like that the systems was easier. That was just getting it in my head. It was just all the personalities, all the needs, making everyone happy was more of, the struggle.
Yeah. And so let's dig into that, because I think that's really, really interesting that, your statement around the business grew faster than you did. And I think for a lot of people, whether you are in a clinical practice or you're just moving online, I think that that's true. I think in their minds, they want the success. They want it immediately, but their identity and their mindset is still scarcity, is still disbelief, is still all of that. And they're not sort of showing up as the person that they need to show up as in order to have the sort of financial success that they want. And then in your case, there was a lag between your identity and your skill set as being a leader, because I remember many conversations where, this person was leaving or this person, this and this. And I remember saying to you, you're the boss, Nicole.
Yeah.
Like, you're the boss. You can tell them that that's not acceptable. Like, that's not how we roll here.
Yeah.
Right. And so even going from like this people pleasing, and I think we all have that.
Yeah. For me, it was multiple coaches. I had a leadership coach. I had you. I think we have to grow, like even a therapist, like we truly to lead that many people and inspire and like have them be their best selves. Like you really need to invest in yourself. And sadly, people don't do that. They get wrapped up in like the growth and the getting to the goal.
Yeah.
And then in the end, things can implode probably for some. And I think I do want to mention to your audience that I did sell it, and I sold my clinic of 55 therapists because it was systemized and because the people were happy and a psychiatrist was able to come in and, make them even happier.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, whether you have aspects of selling or not. I mean, a business isn't sellable if it doesn't have systems. Mm-hmm. And I think too, the goal really is from day one is to treat it like a business. I think part of the problem is that so many practitioners and coaches, like we keep saying, we get no business skills. And so we don't even, or business training, and we don't even know what that looks like. And so we come in like haphazardly, like splatter paint, and we try and do all these things when, that level of suffering is optional, but it does require an investment into, the skills and the learning and the knowledge and the experience, which again, most people don't feel like is a valuable investment, which I don't know why, but there's this block there that's like, oh, I shouldn't, be investing until my business is making money.
Exactly. Yes. I feel honestly, that is the number one success mindset, that people see investing as like a loss, like I'm spending money. And I truly believe that's why I was able to become the largest clinic in Toronto in the shortest amount of time. I really saw it as, if I invest money, that's the only way it will grow. Like nobody invested as much as I did in advertising, but it works. Do you know what I mean? And so everybody else was like, oh, I don't know. And I was like 10 miles ahead of them by the time they realized what works.
Yeah. And, I think that's the difference between those people who really see it as a business versus something that might work, right?
Yeah.
Something that maybe I'm going to give it a try versus no, this is a business. And, rationally, you can't build a really successful business with no financial investment.
Right.
Like rationally, I think people know that if you were to say to anybody like, hey, do you think that you could, start up a really successful restaurant, but not put a dime into it? They'd look at you like, are you crazy? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why would you even ask me? That's ridiculous. So this is the same. There's no difference. It's just on the internet.
Yes. And honestly, I will say that listening to your podcast and watching another human being do it that I related to. What I did, I vividly remember my husband was in the hot tub and I jumped in after one of your podcasts and I said, Dan, there's a formula. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, there is a formula. And if I do it and just remove any fear and get out of my head and like, because it's the emotions that stop us.
Mm-hmm.
And if I just follow it like she did, I really think I could get similar results. And he didn't quite understand, but clearly he's seen our lives change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so you systematized and you invested in leadership boss training, right? We worked together in a mastermind where we had a lot of these types of conversations, how do I handle this? How do I handle that? We still have these conversations, now of like, how do I handle this? And how do I handle that? And then what else do you think gave you the ability to have a life, like actually have a life and a very successful business?
Yes. And do yoga every morning and have time to meditate and like all the things. 100%. Please, everybody listen, a team, not only because I could systemize, but not actually have all the right people doing all the right things. So I think that the skill of delegating is a really great skill, asking for help, letting go of this, building it, giving it away, building it, giving it away. That was one of the biggest things that I did. And I did it quickly because I was like, okay, I have an amazing coach. She's telling me to do this. I'm going to build it and give it away. And then guess what? Not only is my practice running without me, it is now growing without me. And that's where it's magic. That's where I'm in my hot tub and something's actually growing without me.
Yeah, I love that. And so for context, Nicole now helps other therapists turn their, one person clinical practice into a group practice.
You got it.
And that's what she does now. And it's really just to give you an example of consistent investment into growth, which if you go and you look at any truly successful person, they're constantly investing. Nicole worked with us in our high level mastermind. She walked into my house one day and said, I'm going to sell my practice and move to the country. I don't know that you moved to the country, but I know that you sold your practice. You walked in, we were having a mastermind. You're like, I'm done. I'm selling. Okay, great. Did that. And then reinvested in zero to clients, which was the 10K success system. And now it's zero to clients so that she could learn the online stuff because you had never done that before, right? You had never done an online program. You'd never, used ads in the way that we were telling you to use ads or become a personal brand. You had never done that. So instead of, being like, oh, I don't know how to do this, you were like, no, where can I invest next so that I can learn what I need to learn and hit the ground running?
Isn't that amazing? Like to me, the fact that I met you through Freedom and then somehow ended up like in one of your flagship programs, I just kind of did it backwards.
Yeah.
In a random way. But honestly, if I didn't get a coach and meet you, I don't know what I'd be doing because I'd have no clinic. And that was a big identity shift for me. Once I sold, I asked myself, am I going to retire? Like, no, I love creating transformation and I honestly love working. Like I'm one of those, I know you do too. Like I truly feel fully alive when I have ideas that become things. And so this has been life-changing and truly what I meant to do. Who knew that being a business coach for therapists was like actually what I'm supposed to do.
And I love the fact, listen, y'all, I need you to listen to this. Nicole was a therapist for 15 years, right? I was a trainer and a nutritionist for 15 years from the time I was 19 years old until I was 35.
Yeah.
You don't know where it's going to lead you. And I think what the big takeaway here is that you need to do what you feel you're meant to do. And along the way, that might shift and change, but you're never at a loss, right? You're never at a loss. Because once the new thing becomes identified in your life, whether it's like a little inkling, I'm sure before you walked into my house that day, you thought about selling. Like, I'm sure it was like, a little bit of, but it just so happened that we were in COVID. We were supposed to have this mastermind downtown. We obviously couldn't. I had to have it at my house. I lived outside of the city. You had never been there before. The route to get to my house is stunning. And you were like, this is the life if I want, I need to sell my clinic.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it was just like that one day where it was like,
really was. Yeah.
And we're like, no, I need to sell my clinic. We're like, hey, slow down. You're like, no, it's done. I'm selling it. We're like, okay. All right. But I think there's something to be said for taking that first step and listening to the intuition. So many people are so scared. What if it doesn't work out? And what if I need to change my niche? And what if all of those things are going to happen? You're going to shift. You're going to change. You're going to sell your clinic. You're going to stop being a nutritionist. You're going to be a business coach. And then you're going to stop being a business coach. And you're going to go, in my case, hopefully one day work for a nonprofit that you believe in and bring all of the marketing skills to that. Cause that would be like my second half. Or I want to become a doula. I know it's weird, but like, anyway, cause then I won't have kids and I can like do it.
I love it.
You know what I mean? So like, there's things like you don't have like, I think people think that it's like this like life sentence where they like pick a niche or they pick a thing and it's like this life sentence and they're so scared about like what happens if they want to make a change. And I think you're such a good example of that, where you took your 15 years of experience and you made a change because it would benefit your life. And you're now using that experience in such a different way, but you're still doing what is at your root, which is transformation.
Yes. And if I could just share, trust life. Like there was this piece of me that really trusted that I was like, I do believe that, you know, in the law of attraction, all these things. And I truly believe that, wait a minute, what if everything being a psychologist, for 15 years and building a group practice and selling it, what if all of those lessons were for a reason? And then I just really trusted, which is like an everyday thing for me. I have to like practice that, but just really trust your gut that where you are going is exactly where you're supposed to be going. And it may pivot in 2 years, but right now it's exactly where you're supposed to be.
I love that. And, you know, treat it with the reverence that it deserves. Right. And so what that means is if your instincts and your gut are saying, no, this is the thing that I want to do, then treat it with respect, right? Treat it with reverence. It's not just like a thing. It's a business. It's a business that also, you know, if you're listening to me, is rooted in transformation. Like these are people's lives. You can't just half-ass that, nor should you, right? It requires an investment of time and energy and money and all of those things because, you know, this is the start of the journey that is going to lead you to, you know, being in the hot tub by 4 p.m. or being able to, in my case today, you know, go to my son's school at 10 a.m. because he had a hockey game that he told me about yesterday, you know, and I was like, cool, let me switch around some things. And then I was there to watch his game and he scored a goal and he was the only one on the team that scored. And I saw that, you know, amazing. That's what I wanted from day one.
Freedom.
That's freedom. That's freedom. You know, I didn't have to ask anybody. I didn't have to time off. I didn't have to whatever. I switched my schedule around. That's what I wanted from day one. That was the goal. It was never about the millions. It was always about being able to do those things.
I love that.
Yeah. So for any of you listening who resonate at all and or want to, you know, learn how to take your one-person show and turn it into a group practice, where can people find you?
Find me on Instagram, Nicole.McCance Method. I actually have something amazing for you. It is a starter kit because if you are a therapist in solo practice, you probably are feeling really lost and don't even know the first step. If you message me starters kit, just 2 words, starter kit, I will send you Expand Your Practice Starter Kit, the first 3 steps. Nicole.McCance Method.
Amazing. I love that. It's so good. It's so fun for me because to see, and I'm sure you feel this way about your clients too, right? To see the evolution of like, you know, how far they come. And I always feel like this super proud, like mama bear,
like
when
mom,
y'all talk like marketing and automations and we can speak the same language. Cause I know, you know, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, like that wasn't a thing for you.
No.
What you're like, do I need to be on Instagram? I'm like, I think you should be on Instagram. I don't know. I think it might help you.
Oh my God. Totally.
Amazing. Well, thank you for this. For those of you listening, I hope that this was inspiring and I hope that it resonated with you in whatever way that it needed to. And we will talk again soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.